Hey everybody, how's it going? With the release of Age of Empires Definitive Edition, many people are playing this game for the first time in years, if not for the first time at all. I'm very sure that many of you are probably wondering, when do I make certain units and when do I research certain technologies? If so, you're in luck, because this video will be a guide to executing a Tool Age Axeman rush, a Tool Age Slinger rush, and a Bronze Age Chariot rush. These are widely considered to be some of the most deadly rush strategies in this game. I'm also going to briefly overview the units and technologies in the first few ages, so that way you'll be armed with the tools necessary in order to be successful. Let's check it out. Alright, so before I start, I want to say a few things. The purpose of this video is not to give a villager by villager build order, but instead to explain the execution of, and to compare these three popular rushes. This is because I myself am not that great at a villager by villager basis, but I do understand the core concepts in order to perform a successful strategy. Also, this video is not about water maps, because water maps have fishing ships, and I don't really know enough about that strategy in order to really delve into that. And so, let's begin by talking about the Stone Age. Now, the Stone Age looks very similar for all strategies, but there are some very important key differences. And so, at the start of a game, you have your town center and 3 villagers. What you'll do is you'll immediately build a house and explore a little bit around your base. Once you find your berries, you'll place a granary on the berries, and then that's where you'll put your first 5 villagers. Now, the reason you do this is because a granary is the drop-off point for berries and, for later in the game, farms. However, you can't drop anything else at granaries, so be careful when placing these. The reason you have 5 villagers on berries is because that is how many villagers it takes to sustain villager production. And sustaining villager production is very important in order to be competitive in this game. You'll put the next 5 villagers on straggler trees in order to get 120 wood, so that way you'll be able to build a storage pit. Now, a storage pit is a resource drop-off building, except you can drop off stone, gold, wood, and meat into storage pit. In other words, they are very multi-purpose. Because of this multi-purpose use, once you have this 120 wood, you'll need to know where to place it. For the Axeman rush or for the fast Bronze Age, you'll place it on wildlife and on wood, because these are the resources you will need. However, for the Slinger rush, you'll place it on stone and wood or food if you can't find stone next to wood. The reason for this is that slingers cost 10 stone. For the rest of the Stone Age, you'll have 5 villagers on wood, and the rest will all be on food. It's a good idea to build a storage pit or 2 near food so that way your villagers can collect faster, and if you find elephants, definitely lure these beings. Note that there are no farms in the Stone Age, and that there are no technologies or upgrades to research in this age. And this means that you'll instead just be concentrating on gathering food and on hunting. If you're unfortunate enough not to be able to find wildlife, it's okay to put a granary on a second berry patch, but I would suggest against this if you can help it, because villagers collect resources from berries far slower than from hunting. For either of the Tool Age rushes, what you'll do is you'll stop creating villagers once you have 20 villagers, and idle your TC until you have 500 food. At this point, you'll also send 2 food gatherers out to find the enemy base. For the Slinger rush, you'll also take 1 villager off of wood and put it onto stone. By halfway up to Tool Age, you should have found the enemy and you should have started to create 2 or 3 barracks, depending on your wood supply. For the Axeman rush, you'll also immediately start to create clubmen on the way up. But don't fight because clubmen are very weak. But for the Slinger rush, you'll save your food. For the Bronze Age Chariot Rush, you'll instead create villagers until you have somewhere between 24 and 26 villagers, and then you'll immediately click up to the next age. Halfway there, build a barracks, that way you can immediately create archery ranges upon reaching the Tool Age. But we'll get back to that in a little bit. The Tool Age unlocks many different units and technologies, such as armor and melee attack technologies at the storage pit, wall and tower upgrades at the granary, and most importantly, you get access to the market, which has several eco and some pierce attack upgrades. Now, if you think it doesn't make sense to have these military upgrades in these economic buildings, I would say that I agree with you. However, it is still important to know which technologies are researched in which buildings, and it's also very important to know when you should upgrade your units based upon your strategy. For the Axeman rush, as soon as you reach the Tool Age, you'll upgrade your clubmen to axemen at the barracks. You'll also research toolworking and leather infantry armor at the storage pit. These are very important because they buff the stats of your infantry units. Once the axeman upgrade is finished, you'll send your axemen in early to kill enemy villagers. You'll follow this up with more axemen, while you simultaneously expand your economy in order to have increased power. Eventually you'll get the market and the wood food economy upgrades, and you'll go to the next stage if you haven't finished the game already. This shows the strength of the axeman rush, which is that you can attack very early. However, the weakness of this rush is that it requires important unit upgrades, and your build has to be very good in order to be effective. And so if you have a bad map, it's going to be hard to have an effective axeman rush. Additionally, axemen are somewhat weak to towers and to bowmen, and they're very weak to all of the Bronze Age units. This is why I much prefer the Slinger rush. For the Slinger rush, you'll immediately build a market and train slingers as soon as you reach the Tool Age. The market is important because you need the stone mining upgrade, which also increases the slingers' attack and range. You'll then attack villagers with the slingers, whilst adding more of these slingers, and get the economy upgrades to expand your eco. The slinger's weakness is that it is a bit later than the axeman rush, because you can't make slingers in the Stone Age, and also because the slingers are directly countered by axemen. However, in my opinion, it is far stronger and much more versatile, because slingers have bonus damage versus towers, bowmen, and are inherently ranged. This means that a large group of slingers can absolutely melt anything in the Tool Age, and they can even take on a few Bronze Age units fairly easily, if the game hasn't already ended by then. On the other hand, for the fast Bronze Age chariot rush, you'll spend almost no time in the Tool Age. Build a market and an archery range immediately, and by then you should have 800 food required for the Bronze Age. While you're going up to Bronze, spend some time in the Tool Age scouting your opponent's base to get an idea of what strategy they'll go for. Also, rearrange your economy to put between half to 2/3 of your villagers back onto wood, while the rest can go to farms and finish hunting. Get woodcutting upgrades and domestication if you are floating a lot of resources, but make sure you have enough resources to create chariots once you've reached the Bronze Age. Just like the Tool Age before it, the Bronze Age adds an enormous amount of new technologies and units. However, for the purposes of this video, I will only go over the items necessary in order to execute the Bronze Age rush. Once you reach Bronze Age for the rush, you'll immediately research the wheel technology. This is a very important technology because it gives you 60% faster villagers, and it's required for chariots. While this technology is researching, create more villagers, and create several more archery ranges, that way you can create chariot archers once this technology is finished researching. Send the chariot archers into your opponent's economy in order to raid them and slow them down. If they have large groups of slingers or other military units, it's probably wise to hold off for a little bit, but don't worry because a large group of chariot archers will destroy any Tool Age units. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you a story. This is a story of me fighting none other than the Viper. It was a 1v1 game, and even though I had a bad start, I was still able to fend off his initial attacks with minimal losses, and for a small period of time, my score even eclipsed his score. I got to Bronze Age and I started the wheel upgrade. I was getting excited because I actually had a chance to defeat the best Age of Empires 2 player in the world. As soon as Wheel finished, I went to my building to create chariots. But for some reason, I saw that I couldn't create them. I thought, oh no, have I cancelled the Wheel upgrade? And then it hit me. I was playing as the Persians. But the Persians don't even have access to chariots. Needless to say, because I had collected no gold, there was nothing I could do in this age. And so I used the only logical strategy I could think of, which was to villager rush the Viper. Needless to say, this didn't work, and I lost my only chance of ever being able to say that I defeated the Viper. The moral of that story is that while chariots are incredibly powerful because they're fast and don't cost gold, the reality is your civilization needs to have chariots before you even think about doing a chariot rush. Anyways, once your first few chariots are out attacking the enemy, build a government center. The reason you want to build a government center is because it unlocks access to creating new town centers. Unlike Age of Empires 2, where town centers cost stone, they don't cost stone in Age of Empires 1, which means that from now on, you should be building lots of town centers in order to boom your economy and to make your chariot archer army a lot stronger. Get the necessary attack, range, and armor upgrades at the storage pit and at the market. Well-microed chariot archers are extremely devastating because they can destroy an economy using hit and run tactics. To counter chariots and chariot archers, put several villagers on gold in order to make either cavalry or camel riders from the stables or composite bowmen from archery ranges. However, a good rush will still kill your villagers and most likely you won't be able to do anything. Chariots from stables counter chariot archers if they're not paying attention, but the power of chariot archers comes from the fact that it's an early Bronze Age rush. I suppose that in closing I would have to say that they're all very powerful strategies with various strengths and weaknesses. I hope that my video has allowed you to see what those strengths and weaknesses are, and I hope that you'll be able to execute these strategies with ease. Before I end, I'd like to especially thank everybody who has subscribed to this channel because of my previous Age of Empires 1 video. That's been a really big video for me, and I am very grateful. I'm still an Age of Empires 2 YouTuber, but I'll still make several videos on important topics in Age of Empires 1. Anyways, thanks for watching this, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.